Hello, 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 good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Python office hours. How you guys doing? How is your day? I think we're about 11 people watching now. Um, right. You guys are welcome. It's nice to be with you guys once again. So yeah, so the way the office hours goes is you can drop your questions in the YouTube comment section and I'm going to go through them and try to answer. So, but first of all, let me know if you guys can hear me like clearly. So I know to adjust myself. All right, cool. Thank you. Let me just go ahead and share my screen. All right, thank you. So I guess if you have any question, you can just go ahead and drop them in the comment section. Um, wow. But if not, I just want to go over some basic things. Python, especially loops, right? Probably we can talk about loops and how for loops, while loop, right? And how you can use them on sequences. And when I say sequences, I'm talking about lists, dictionaries, tuples, sets, string, and stuff like that, right? So cool. All right. Just going through the YouTube comment section, but I can see there's no question there. So I'll just go ahead. Right. So first and foremost, what is a for loop? What is a for loop, right? A for loop in Python is an iterator, right? So it is used for iterating over a sequence. As I said earlier, a for loop is used to loop iterate over a sequence, right? And sequences are lists, dictionaries, tuple sets, and even strings, right? So which sequences contains of both mutable and immutable types, right? From here we have list, dictionary, which are mutable, like they can change, and we have string, tuples, which are immutable. So um so how can we use a for loop on these sequences, right? So let's say we have a list of fruits, right? A list of fruits, um right? So we say fruits equals apple, banana, and cherry. I think this is big enough. Let me just increase it a little bit. So yep. So the list of fruits, right? We have apple, banana, cherry, and we want to print out each element of the list. We can basically do that by using a for loop. So we say for fruits in fruits, right? Print fruits, right? So for each item in fruits in this list, we are printing it all right. So basically, we have to loop over that particular list with a for loop, and that is what we're doing here. And if we try to run this now, run Python file, we can see we have apple, banana, and cherry in the terminal, right? So on each iteration, it goes over from the first element in the list and prints it out. So on the first iteration, it prints out apple, banana, and cherry, right? So that is how you can use a for loop on a list. So, and there are a lot of stuff we can do. There are other things we can do with for loops. Let's say in a for loop statement, we want to have a break. So we only want it to loop up to a certain level, right? We don't want it to loop through the whole list. So we can have a break by using an if statement. So we can say print fruit, and once, so let's say if fruit is now equals to say banana, right? When fruit is equals to banana, we want the loop to stop, right? We don't want it to continue. So we just need to add a break statement. So a break statement basically stops stops a sequence that is being run. Like when code is running and it encounters a break statement, it just stops that operation. So it stops the operation. So what we're doing here is we have a condition and if statement that checks if fruit is currently equals to banana, right? You know, on each iteration, it picks one element from the list and performs. So the first iteration, it picks apple, prints out apple, and then it will check if apple equals banana, break. In this instance, this condition is false, right? So the code is not going to break. So let me just show you how that works. So if I run this, it prints out apple and banana only. Where is it? Where is the terminal? So it prints out apple and banana only. Why? Because on the first iteration, when it's got say it prints apple, right? And then it checks if apple equals banana, which is false. And then goes to the second item and prints out banana, right? It prints out banana first, and then it checks if banana equals banana, and then it breaks, so it doesn't continue. What happens if we move this if statement up, right? What happens if we move it above the print statement? Let's see what happens now. So it only prints out apple. Why? Because it is checking this condition first before printing out, right? So that is to say the way our code is being written, right? That is the way it's going to be run, like follows that particular sequence. So so basically that's the break statement. There are also statements like we can have the continue statements, right? So what the continue statement is, what it does is, even on the current, it's going to stop the current iteration, but it's still going to continue, right? When it meets a condition. So let's say we have continue statement here instead of a break statement, right? So let me just move this back. Okay. And we run this. So what the continue statement is doing is it still iterates, right? And then it prints the fruit first. Okay, so for you to understand, let me move the print statement down. Cool. So we would see. Right. So we see it only prints out apple and cherry because we are checking this for this condition here. If the fruit equals banana, it's just going to skip, right? It's just going to end this particular iteration, this for loop, and it goes onto the next one. So that's like the difference between break. Break will stop entirely, while continue will just stop that current iteration and move on to the next one. So my screen is blue. I'm not entirely sure because I've increased fonts now. Probably you need to check the video quality or something you're streaming on. Okay, so can someone put me on through this topic? So we're just going through Python loops, right? Especially for loop, how you can use for loop with sequences. At the beginning, I said sequences are lists, dictionary, tuple set, and strings, right? So they are called sequences. How you can loop over them. So we are still on for loop now. How you can work use for loop to work with these sequences. All right, so basically there's no question. So basically that's, and yeah, I also talked about the break statements and the continue statements, the difference between them, right? So when you have a break statement, it's just cancel the whole operation. And when you have a continue statement, it cancels that particular iteration and goes to the next item. Right. So let's try to look over maybe a string and see what happens, right? So instead of a list, I want to look over a string now. So we have string. So string equals hello world, right? So we can loop over a string also, basically the same way for character, for okay, this can be anything. This can be X, right? This can be X or anything you want to call it. So for CHR in string print character, all right? So we are printing out each character in hello world. So you'll see on the terminal, it's print out HELL and even the space, right? Prints out each character because the space here, this white space is also a character. Prints out it in. So basically, that's all like for loop works. It just iterate over each item and do whatever you want to do. So with them. there are a lot of things you can do with so in with for loops and iteration. We are looking over them. Just not to maybe you want to you want to remove a certain character, or you want to check a certain conditions. Those are stuff you can do. So yeah, so let's talk about range. So we have range, something called the range function. That is another operation you can use a for loop on. So we have a range function. So now what this particular range function does is it is used to specify a certain range of number, right? So like it is used to specify the number of times or a certain range of number to loop through. So this range, when you say a range, numbers in range 10, it is going to loop through all the numbers starting from 0 to 10. It is going to loop through all the numbers in 10, right? So it's going to loop through numbers between 0 and 10, and that is 0 to 9, not including 10, right? So because we are looping 10 times, and if we start from 0 and we count up to 10 times, we only going to get the number 9. So that is range. Just run. So just if you are not clear, just ask in the comment section and I would go back. So let me just clear this out and run this again. Right, so you see it prints out 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And number of times I treated is 10, right? So that is how to use range. You can specify if you want it to start from 2, right? You say you input 2, comma 10. This means the start, the end, right? So if we run this now, we are telling the iteration to start from 2, right? And it's going to start from 2. So you see it's printing out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We can also specify the, how do I put the step, right? The step you want to go through. So if you want the iteration to maybe skip some certain time, so between 0 and 10, right? You will only want to print out the number after each 2 steps. So you can specify 0 here, which is the start, and then the step, which is 2, right? So, and if we run this now, we have 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, right? So it just picks the next two number, and that like that. So yeah, so that is the range function and how you can use it with the loop. Why is the output in vertical form? So that is because for each iteration, like when you are iterating over the list, it's once the iteration starts, it picks that particular element, or yeah, it picks out the element, and then so let me go back to the example of fruits. So when you're iterating over this fruit, it picks apple first and prints out apple, right? So when it prints out apple, it goes to the next element and prints the next element under it. There are ways you can actually like format your outputs. You can format your outputs if you want them to maybe print on the same line, right? There are ways you can do that. Probably by use string formatting or like the join statement and stuff like that. So, oh, so that is for the range. Right. So you can actually also use an else statement. The else statements will run regardless, like when the loop is finished, then you can have the else statements print out the for loop is over, right? So you can use the else statement also with the loop, not only in if condition. So it's going to print out the else statement also when the for loop is over. It goes through the loop 02468 and prints out the else statement also. So you can just use that to maybe to validate when you're running a line of code to validate. And mind you, if you have a break here, or yeah, if you have a break here, the else statement is not going to run. It's only going to run when the for loop like is completed successfully, like the whole loop. So yeah. Um okay, I don't know if there's any question yet. Let me know if there's any question in the comment. So and there's something we call nested loops, right? Nested loops. So nested loops is basically like having a loop inside of a loop, right? So like there's going to be an outer loop and there's also going to be like a loop inside of that loop. So how it works is, let me show you what I mean by nested. So let's have some variables we can loop through. So let's say we have list one, which is a list of number, and we have list two, which is a list of letters, right? So when we say for I in list one, or J in list two, so this is basically how you can define a nested loop. So the first loop is iterating over list one, and the second loop is iterating over loop two. And when you are defining the variable for the list two, you have to use a different variable from the first one, right? So yeah, so how it works is the inner loop will be executed one time for each iteration of the outer loop, right? The inner loop will be iterated one time, will be executed one time for each iteration of the outer loop. So when we take the first element, right, we are going to loop through all the elements here, A, B, C, and then we go to the next element in two. So let me just run this so you can understand better. All right, so see, we have A1, sorry, we have 1A, 1B, 1C, 2A, and da 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 da. So basically, it takes the first item in list one and then goes to the second line, the second for loop, takes the first element and then prints out, then go again to this second item in the second loop until it's done with this list two. That is when it's going to go to the next item in list one. I don't know if you're following, so just let me know if you don't understand. So basically that's how um So basically that's how nested loops work, right? Nested for loops. That's how they work. Mm, what else? What else? Let's see. Right. So at this point, let me know if you have any question regards like for loops and how they work. Um yeah, basically about anything in Python. We are 30 minutes in now. Okay. So yeah, so someone is asking the I and the J are variables are assigned to the list one and list. So they are assigned to on each iteration, like when the for loop is iterating over the element in the list, that particular element at that time is assigned to I. So on the first iteration, right, the first element we have here is one, right? So for I in list one, taking the first element in list one, which is one, and then to assign it to I, right? And then the same thing for J in list two, it takes the first element in J as in list two and assigns it to J, right? So um, so someone, Lauren, what is asking, how do decorators work and how to implement it? Interesting. Um, so basically Python decorators are used to add some other functionality to probably a method or a function without necessarily making any type of change to that function, right? So it's added to a function, does add some functionality to that function. And yeah, so um I don't want to complicate things now because it's like early class. So there are some like prerequisites before you can fully understand what decorators are. You must actually be comfortable with object-oriented programming. I mean classes and objects, right? Before you can actually understand how or even why you should use a Python decorator. So but basically Python decorator is used to add functionality to an object, right? Without changing the the basic function or whatever that class is doing or the object is doing. So before we go, before I end the office hours, let's talk a bit about Python dictionaries, right? What are Python dictionaries and their methods, like Python dictionary methods and stuff like that. So, right, Python dictionary, which is part of the sequence I mentioned earlier. So you can actually use a for loop on also the sequence. Okay, so you can create a for loop to use on a dictionary. So how can you define a dictionary? We can have this dictionary equals, so dictionaries are defined using curly brackets, right? And they are defined in key value pairs. They used to store data in key value pairs. What do I mean by key value pairs? So when you have um uh when you have this curly brace, you can see probably you want to store information about a person, about myself. Now I can have the key, which is my name, or a name, a random name, which is John. You can have their age, 36, and the country, blah blah blah. So basically it is used to store in key value pairs, right? And there are some that you can, print out the item by referencing the key of that item. So if you want to get, maybe you want to print out John's age, so you can do that by referencing, let's say, print this dictionary, and we call the age, right? So, and when we run this, we're printing out John's age, which is 36, right? Same goes for if you want to print out name and age, right? So we can print out the value in this dictionary. The value of age is 36, the value of name is John, and etc. Right. So um in a dictionary you cannot have um same key. So we cannot have two age keys or two or two name keys or two country keys. It can only be one. It can only be one, because if you have two keys, one is actually going to override the other. So let's just say we are printing out the age. Let's see what happens. So it's printing out the item that has 40 below, right? So that is the last defined key value pair for 40. If we move this up, we should have 36, right? So we have 36. So a dictionary can only have one key. The value can actually be the same, doesn't matter, but the key has to be unique for each dictionary. Okay, so there are some dictionary methods, right? There are some dictionary methods in Python. So some of the methods are you can check. Okay, so before we go to the methods, let's see how you can check like the length of a dictionary. And this not only used on dictionary, you can use it on a list or anything. So to get the length, you just need to use the length function, right? So you print out length of dictionary, and it's going to tell you the length of the dictionary, which is three because we have three key value pairs, right? Three key value pairs in the dictionary. All right. So let's talk about um dictionary methods, right? So let's say we want to print out the items, the items in the dictionary. We can just do print this dictionary dot items. Item is a method, like a function of a dictionary class, right? So if we run this, we are only going to print, we only get to get the dictionary items, right? So we can see it prints out the items in the dictionary. So this is in a for loop for keys value dictionary items. Okay. Right. So print out the key and the value, but we only want to print out the value, right? So for each item in a dictionary, we want to print out the value of each item. So what we did here is to check for key value in dictionary.items, right? So what dictionary.item does is it creates a set, right? It creates a set of each item. So there's a list and it creates a set of each item. So if to get the value of that item, you need to loop through that set and print out the value. So dictionary items. Um, there are other. Okay, so I think there are questions. Please, how do I link my VS Code to a terminal? I'm not sure I really understand. You can just open up the terminal in VS Code, right? So at the top of the bar, you see the terminal and just click new terminal. So that's it. Create a loop that reverses an array. Okay, cool. We can go back to that. Um, dictionaries in Python refers to objects in JS. Yes, yes. Can we have multiple detail in dictionary like for other people with same parameters? Yeah, so you can have a dictionary. Probably you can have like if you want to have other people, you can just create like a list, right? So you can say people is a list, and in that list you can have dictionary, right? So let's format this well. Right. So in the list we have name. So we can have another dictionary in these lists and another. So in this list, we have a dictionary, like a set of three people, right? In these lists, and you can look through them to get the value of each of them. Can we have nested dictionary? Yeah, sure. So we can say, okay, let's create, um, let's create another dictionary. Let's say languages, right? So we can make this a dictionary, right? And the first language is English, the second language is Norwegian, and so on and so forth. So this is like dictionary of languages. Do you understand? So you can have a nested dictionary, you can have a list in a dictionary, right? Best food. You can have a list, right? Pizza, pasta, steak, and the rest. So those are stuff you could do. You can store basically anything. A value can be anything. It can be a string, a number, a set, a tuple, a dictionary again, a list, and so on and so forth. So basically, can you have a dictionary listed? Yes. Is this a specific? Is there a specific name for variables in a dictionary? Specific name? No, your keys can actually take on any name. You just don't. It just has to be unique, right? You cannot use the same name in same variable name twice in a list in for the key, right? For the key. So that's it. Um yeah, so I think we have about 5-10 minutes. So I think there was a question on reversing the lists, right? Can you guys still hear me? I think my internet is acting up. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was actually muted the whole wow. But let me just explain again, right? So I create there was a question that says we need to reverse a loop, right? We need to reverse an array. We need to create a loop to reverse an array, right? And so what I did was I created a new list and I looped through the first list and added, and for each of the value, I created another list and I added it to the reverse list. So that way the items are being added in front and onto the last element. That's how we got the reverse list. So but let me know if that answers the question. If you don't mind, can you go over accessing items in a list and dictionary? They are often confusing things. Okay, so accessing items in a list is you can access. So when you have a list, I want to access element 3, right? We can just print out the index number. So the way indexing works in Python is the first element is 0. In this case, 3 would be index number 2, right? So when we print out the element on index 2, we are going to get 3. So that's basically how you can access the elements, right? 3. That's like an element. Now for dictionaries, you have, if you want to access an element or an element basically in a dictionary, you have to know the key, right? The key of that particular element. So for this dictionary, we want to print out the value of country. So we can just do print this dictionary. Now, instead of the index number, like the list, you can access them. You have to access them with the key, right? So we want to print out the value of country. So we do this dictionary with the square brackets and country. So when we print this out now, we are going to have the value of that country. So that's basically how the difference between how to access elements in the dictionary. You access with the keys. In the list, you access with the index number. You now complete example before reverse. Example before reverse. I'm not sure I understand. I'm not really sure I understand that, but yeah, it's really, I hope you understand if like what we've gone through this evening. We talked a bit about dictionaries and for loops and lists. And you can always drop me a question on your question on Slack. Sure, and we are going to see how we can answer. Says it looks like Jason. Yeah, basically the dictionary. Yeah, just this informats is also like a dictionary because it's a key value pair, right? An object in JavaScript. So yeah, so JSON format. Yeah, basically that's it. Thank you guys for your time. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.